Trouble is coming, folks. Trouble in the form of high winds and heavy rains. Severe weather trouble and tropical trouble are all in the forecast this holiday weekend. If you've got plans to head out to see fireworks, have people over for that backyard barbecue, or head on down to the beach, you're likely to be impacted by the weather at some point, and I'll show you where those trouble spots are most likely to be, and we're going to kick things off here on Cold Rain's Weather World with the severe weather outlook. Happy 4th of July, my friends, and welcome into another edition of Cold Rain's Weather World, where we've got all the weather, including severe weather, for your Independence Day for some of you. Fortunately, we don't have to deal with an alien invasion at the same time, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, just check out Independence Day, the movie from the 1990s starring Jeff Goldblum, Will Smith, and Bill Pullman, not to be confused with Bill Paxton, who starred in Twister. Very fun, entertaining, and action-packed movie you will absolutely love. You need to see it if you haven't done so. But we have been in this persistent and consistent pattern of ridging across much of the United States. The ridge axis has kind of floated around, but what that means is energy flows over the top of the ridge and down in the heart of the country. In southern portions of the country, we haven't seen very much in the way of severe weather because all the energy's been on the top of the ridge, and that pattern, as you can see, just persists as we go on through the weekend into next week and beyond, and it'll set up where the core of it's actually in the west. We'll take a look at that in our long-range outlook, but we saw some severe weather yesterday up in the northeast. We saw a lot of wind reports up here, just where we expected, and like I expected yesterday, now we have a slight risk up here in the northern plains around in the Midwest, around Minnesota, back into North Dakota, Fargo, and International Falls could see severe weather this afternoon. Anywhere in this green area, you could see severe weather too, isolated and more widely scattered though. But slight risk up here with the potential for tornadoes, a little jet working in, low-level spin there. Wind is the primary threat though. Could see a few hail reports, but really we don't have an environment for that today. Looking at tomorrow, bigger threat for severe weather back here in Montana and western Dakotas down into Wyoming, where we could see a little bit more in the way of wind and hail tomorrow. Look at this. We've got some cooler air working in aloft that'll lower freezing temperatures, allow for better hail production. Wind damage could come out of some of these clusters that develop. Even tornado or two is not out of the question with some low-level spin tomorrow. Checking out the radar and future radar in terms of how things play out as we get on toward midday today, we start to see a few showers and thunderstorms developing. We'll see supercells quickly form into clusters where the better shear is up here in Minnesota back into the Dakotas, and that will enhance the wind threat as we go on through the afternoon. See some supercells and some other thunderstorms breaking out down here in Nebraska and Kansas. Got a little less shear, so we don't have as much organization there. And of course, back over in Wyoming and Montana, seeing some showers too. Texas seeing plenty of showers and thunderstorms down there through the afternoon. Portions of the southeast may see a pop-up shower or two. Some of that will hold together as we get into the nighttime hours, but largely diminish in intensity, and then pick back up again tomorrow from the UP of Michigan, back from Wisconsin back through Iowa. Could see several areas of scattered showers, storms back into Montana is where we really start to see things getting together, and you even see the hint of a little organized line segment moving through eastern Montana into the Dakotas before everything kind of dies out. Texas, you're still seeing rain, and you'll continue to see that in the areas that have seen plenty of it. So that's what we're really looking at as we go on through the next couple of days. Looking at the surface map, there's the boundary up toward the north over a sort of a juxtaposition of heavy rain where some of those areas of thunderstorms are going to train this afternoon up through Minnesota and into the Dakotas. But watch out for severe weather. Plenty of shower and thunderstorm activity in the northern tier, central plain. Down here in Florida in the southeast could see some showers too, with that tropical system getting off the coast, getting its act together. We'll look at that, the tropical update tomorrow. The pattern doesn't change very much. Everything kind of stays in place with this frontal boundary across the north, little waves moving along it. Severe weather threat there, that is. Plenty of instability back through the central plains, and we could see severe weather linger there and spots, but mostly it's just going to be pop-up shower and thunderstorm activity again across the south too with that tropical moisture. That's your severe weather update, and now we're going to take a look at a quick weather IQ question about the moon. I told you to brush up on your moon data. Hope you did, because here it comes. All right, similar to yesterday, we've got another full moon question. This one pertains to the first full moon of the year. So what is the first full moon of the year called? Is it called the blue moon, the super moon, the wolf moon, or the spirit moon? If you know the answer, type it in the comment section. If you don't know it, just wait till the end of the show, and I'll let you know what it is, and I'll give you a hint. It's one of these four answers. All right, we'll be right back with the answer. So who's going to stay dry? Who's going to stay wet as we go on through the holiday weekend? Well, I'm going to show you what I think is going to happen. We're going to start with the satellite picture, and Texas is not staying dry, particularly around San Antonio today, where you've seen several inches of rain with this big cluster of showers and storms that'll continue through the morning hours into the afternoon. So expect to see a few more inches of rain there, clouds extending all the way back up into the plains with energy working through the top of that ridge, another piece of energy coming into the Pacific Northwest, producing clouds and showers out here, thunderstorms as well occasionally, and in through the Great Lakes. Also, got another little cluster of clouds up here in New England, keeping some of you guys cloudy and socked in this morning. Look at this little wispy line coming out of Canada. That is smoke. It is still a problem, but fortunately it's not at ground level, so that's not bothering too many people. Just is nice to see, or interesting to see rather, on the satellite. Clouds in the southeast, particularly along the beaches over Florida, with this low pressure system starting to get its act together off the coast. That's going to be a role player in the weather over the southeast over the next couple of days. Alerts map, air quality stands out up here in the Great Lakes and the upper Ohio Valley. We're going to see increased ozone, so if you got sensitivity to that, stay inside. Los Angeles and down here toward Phoenix as well. Going to look for some air quality issues. Red flag warnings are up for dry conditions, thunderstorms sparking wildfires potentially, and winds gusting into the 20s, maybe close to 50 with thunderstorms out here. And there's your flood watches and warnings out in Texas. Be careful if you're driving around there today. Heat advisories and extreme heat warnings up here in Minnesota, around Duluth, the Twin Cities, or International Falls rather, I should say. And look for temperatures and heat indexes around 95 this afternoon. Flash flood watches are up too for thunderstorms later today, producing training and heavy rains. Air quality not too good around Milwaukee, Chicago, Detroit, Indianapolis, Cincinnati, Las Vegas, and particularly down in Los Angeles, where fireworks smoke later today could just linger in the air. Wildfire smoke too, producing a higher degree of air quality issues there. If you're sensitive, as I said, stay inside. Brown is dry, green is moist on our dew point. This just shows you where it's going to feel pretty muggy as you go outside. Look at those deep greens working into the northern plains, hence the heat advisories up there. Deep greens along the southeast too, in association with that tropical system. And then little relief on the interior southeast up into the Ohio Valley. It's still going to feel muggy, but not quite as bad as it did the other days. We get on through the weekend. Frontal zone is going to sit up from the Great Lakes back into Texas. We'll see that in a minute, but you can really see the dew points kind of surge along that, and then surging dew points into the southeast as that low pressure makes some headway inland through the course of the weekend. So it's going to feel hot and muggy, hot temperatures into the 90s all the way up to the Canadian border, 90s across the south, hundreds in the desert southwest today, 60s and 70s in the northeast, so pretty cool up there, 70s up in the northwest. Tomorrow, much the same story, warming up in the northeast, cooling down across the northern tier down into the 70s where it was in the 90s, and not too bad out in the northwest, warm across the south, hot near Phoenix, 106 out there, 80s and 90s everywhere else across the south. And then as we get on into Sunday, much the same regime, starting to warm up a little bit more as that ridge builds in toward the east, and we're getting 80s up into New England. Still 70s across the north, warmth coming back into the northwest, at least the eastern sections of it. And then we get on down here to the southwest, and we're seeing temperatures approach 110 again, 90s everywhere else. So warming up through the weekend. Looking at precipitation, the main areas to watch are across the northern tier, back into the central plains, down into Texas and the southeast coast. Those are the trouble spots. Northeast and into the interior southeast, desert southwest, west coast, not too bad as we go through the weekend. Most of your plans should be in good shape there. But look at this. This afternoon, we're seeing showers and thunderstorms across the north, rain across the beaches in the southeast. Texas, you're not going to get any relief. We're going to see rain down there. We go into Saturday. More showers and thunderstorms across the north and Midwest along a frontal boundary there. More showers and thunderstorms coming through the plains as we get into Saturday evening and night, overnight, and into Sunday morning. There's that front lighting up Sunday afternoon, and low pressure working in off the southeast could be make a wet go of it here in the Piedmont sections of the Carolinas, coastal areas, Florida, plenty of rain, up and down the central plains, rain too. So you guys are going to have to dodge rain in those areas, for your weekend plans. Make sure you've got alternate plans. If you had something planned outdoors, you're just going to have to watch across the north, central plains, and the southeast. Those are the trouble spots. Now we're going to take a look at the tropics and see how this system is kind of maneuvering and getting its act together, what's going to happen there. Tropical trouble is blooming. Look at this big area of convection here off the southeast coast. This looks a lot worse than it is. It's really just unorganized area of low pressure, very, very weak area of low pressure. This is just a cluster of thunderstorms out here, nothing to worry about. But this is what the Hurricane Center has its eye on, and you can see that eye is denoted by this X. So we've got a 60% chance of a quick tropical cyclone formation or subtropical storm developing before it moves on inland over the next 48 to 72 hours. Not really looking at anything major here, but it's going to be a rainmaker for a good portion of the southeast as it starts to move inland. This is the European ensemble, and it shows you where it thinks low pressure might form as we go on out in time here. This is Saturday morning, and you start to see several little L's here. These are the various members that actually develop a low pressure sub 1005 millibars that's starting to become a respectable weak low pressure system. Most members don't really develop anything at all. That you only have 4 or 5 out of 51 that develop anything, and all of them take it inland. So you can see we're not expecting a lot of big development here, but certainly we're going to see tropical air mass and lift for showers move on in. And if you take a look here at the actual precipitation, this is Saturday, we'll get here Saturday morning, and you start to see precipitation now accumulating along the coast and kind of moving inland as we go through the day Saturday into Saturday night and Sunday, particularly in Florida. West coast of Florida gets in on the action. Beaches here could be a rainy weekend down here along the southeast coast, as most likely will be as we get through the weekend, folks, particularly Saturday into Sunday. I'm sorry to say along the Gulf Coast too, in Florida, picking up quite a bit of rain as this eventually moves on in. It will bring rain back into the Piedmont sections, a little bit lesser as we get toward the western portion of the area. But that's your tropical update. Not much else going on. A little area of disturbed weather out in the Pacific, eastern Pacific could develop, but we're not going to focus on that right now. Take a look at your long range coming right up. 173 days, 15 hours, and change until Christmas time, folks. And if you celebrate Christmas in July at all by watching Christmas movies, I've got a couple of recommendations for you. Home Alone 2, you've probably seen it, but it's one of the few cases where the sequel is nearly as good, or actually as good, as the first. We always watch the first at real Christmas time and watch the second one also in July. And then Die Hard is another great Christmas movie, and do not argue with me about that point. It is a Christmas movie. If you want to debate it, we'll go in the comment section, but it is a Christmas movie, and it's really, really good. One of the best action movies, if not the best action movie of all time, starring Bruce Willis. Great movie. Watch it. You'll be glad you did. And in any event, we're going to take a look beyond Christmas and look at the long-range forecast here. And we're going to start by looking at the upper level heights. We've been looking at this, the height anomaly map. Looking at this just shows you where the upper level troughs and ridges are. And look what happens as we get on in. We're going to start here. Roll this back. I don't know why I rolled it so far forward, but we're going to roll it here on Monday. This is Monday morning coming up. All right, so watch what happens to the pattern. Look at this. Big 597 decameter ridge sets up over the southwest, and that persists as we get on through the week. And look at this big trough down here in the east. Okay, we know what happens when we're under a trough, and we know what happens when we're under a ridge. I've told you 100 times about that, and I'll harp on it because some people are new and they don't see it. The GFS also has the same sort of pattern, so I'm not lying to you when I say that there is general agreement here, but when you're under a ridge, the atmosphere is kind of capped and you get less in the way of shower and thunderstorm activity. It's also hotter when you're under a trough that's a little bit cooler. When the trough axis is over you or just to the west of you, to the east of the trough axis, where you find lift and precipitation. So you can tell by this map, it's likely to be a little bit cooler under this trough and a little bit stormier along and ahead of it. So here's where you'd find rain in the southeast and in the eastern portion of the country, and be a little bit drier and warmer back to the west. And you can see that play out here with our 850 millibar temperatures. It's about a mile up, and it shows you about gives you a good proxy for temperatures at the surface. So warm out west as that ridge builds in. Still warm because we've got some ridging over to the east too, but look in the center where the trough is. See, cooler, and then eventually the trough sort of mutes out, and we get this pattern where we get another trough kind of coming in, and then it builds back in again with cooler temperatures, but predominantly east and west is going to stay generally above normal, with the best signal for below normal in the central portion of the country, the nation's midsection here. See, there's a 6 to 10 day July the 9th through the 13th, so second week in July, looking above in the west, mostly above in the east too, particularly along the southeast coast. Above normal precipitation, potentially along and ahead of that trough in the east. Also a little bit of a troughing coming into northwest Canada will bring energy into the northwest. You'll probably see some of that move along the northern tier, but below normal temperature out here, or below normal precipitation out here in the Four Corners region above in Alaska and Hawaii as well, folks. And now we're going to take a look at the sun quickly and see if it's doing anything of note. The solar and geological update today is not going to be much of an update because nothing is going on. Look at here, systems normal across the board, folks. Nothing going on here. It's a coronagraph not showing much going on. A few little bursts of filaments erupting. Nothing pointed at Earth. Nothing coming out from a coronal hole standpoint here on the sun. So we're looking good there. Sunspot activity. Got several spots turning away, a couple coming in. None of these are complex at all, so not much in the way of potential for big solar flaring. You can see here the biggest chance we've got is for the lowest intensity solar flare, a C of 20%. So not really looking at anything coming off the sun anytime soon unless something surprises us, and it always could. We never got into geomagnetic storm conditions, so no need to check out the aurora map. Nothing going on there. Nothing really going on the volcano or earthquake side either. Maybe a shake or two out here in California, but nothing else. A little bit of an earthquake swarm happening around Japan off the coast there, and so watching that, but other than that, not anything else going on. Full moon is coming up on July the 10th, and the 10th, it is a buck moon. We're at 66.5%, a waxing gibbous moon right now. And that brings us into the answer to today's Weather IQ question. And of course, the question was, the first full moon of the year is called what? Did you get it? The answer is, or you think you know it, that's what I meant to say. The answer is a wolf moon. C is a wolf moon, okay? It's traditionally linked to the howling of wolves in the wintertime. So, first full moon of the year occurs in January. Of course, it's called a wolf moon. And now you know a little bit about the moon. And of course, a couple of Independence Day facts that I'm sure you're aware of. One is the Declaration of Independence was adopted in 1776 on July the 4th. It was actually ratified, I believe, on July the 2nd, but it was formally announced and adopted on the 4th, and that's the date we celebrate. And of course, a little fun fact here. Former presidents Thomas Jefferson and John Adams, who both signed the Declaration of Independence, died on the same day, July the 4th, 1826, the 50th anniversary of the Day of Independence. And their coincidental deaths are one of American history's most famous facts. As a matter of fact, as John Adams lay on his deathbed, his last words reportedly were, "Thomas Jefferson lives." He did not know that Thomas Jefferson had already passed away. Now you know a little bit about history. Now you know the weather, and of course, you know where the day and the night is because you can look out and see it. But in case you needed help with that, here's the day and night map. Look at that. Everybody's awake except for these people down here in Australia and over into China and Japan. You guys are asleep. Hopefully you're asleep, dreaming about Cold Rain's weather world, I'm sure. Anyway, that's it, folks. I hope you have a wonderful Independence Day. And of course, this is always, as always, this is Cold Rain reminding you that other stations run 24/7, but we've got you covered right here, right now at Cold Rain's Weather World 4814. Have a wonderful weekend, folks. We'll talk to you soon.